All right, in this video, we're going to do a basic mixture problem using a system of equations. In this mixture problem, we're mixing coffee. So it says Julia owns a coffee shop. She experimented with mixing city roast Colombian coffee that costs $7.80 per pound with French roast Colombian coffee that costs $8.10 per pound to make a 20-pound blend. And her blend should cost her $7.92 per pound. And it asks, how much of each type of coffee should she buy? So, in any word problem, your goal is to set up an equation that you can solve and then use the solutions to answer the question. But before you can set up an equation, you have to decide and you have to state what your variables are and what they're going to represent. And the way to figure that out is to look at what the question is asking you to find. And it's almost always the last sentence or the last question. So here it says, how much of each type of coffee should she buy? And how much isn't talking about money, it's talking about pounds. And so you have to be specific, because each coffee has two values associated with it: money and weight. And so you can't just say let X equal city roast, because that's not a number, that's a coffee. So you have to be specific so that your variables represent actual numbers. So I'm going to use my two unknowns are the amount of city roast and the amount of French roast, right? So my variables are going to be X and Y. I'm going to let X be the amount of city roast, and I'm going to let Y be the amount of French roast. The two things I'm looking for are amounts in pounds, not costs. Okay. So now we're going to try to set up two equations. Whenever you have two variables to solve for, you got to have two equations. If we had three variables, we'd have to have three equations. All right, so the two equations are going to be, one is going to represent the total amount of the blend, or all the coffee that we're using. It's going to be about pounds. And the second equation is going to be about dollars. It's going to be about the total cost of the blend. So we know that the amount that we want to end up with, she wants to end up with a 20-pound blend. She wants to end up with 20 pounds, but she's using X pounds of the city roast and Y pounds of the French roast to get that 20-pound blend. So that first equation has to say X plus Y has to add up to 20. Okay, and now my second equation is going to be about the total cost. So we know that the city roast is $7.80 per pound, right? And the French so the city roast, how much is that going to cost her? She's going to use X pounds of it, and each pound is going to cost her $7.80, right? So the total cost of the city roast is going to be $7.80 per pound times X pounds. And she's going to do the same thing with the French roast. The French roast costs her $8.10 per pound, and she's going to use Y pounds of it. So the total cost of the French roast that she's going to use is going to be $8.10 per pound times Y pounds. So 8.10 times Y. And those two things added together, that's her total cost of coffee that's all the money she's going to spend on coffee. And it's got to come out to the cost of the blend, right? And the blend, she wants it to cost $7.92 per pound, and she's going to make 20 pounds of it. So the total cost of the blend has to be 7.92 times 20. $7.92 per pound times the 20 pounds that she's making. All right, so now we have our two equations. Now we could do elimination or we could do substitution. And one tip I want to give you is that substitution is only useful if one of your equations has a variable that has a coefficient of 1. If you don't have a 1 in front of one of your variables, then substitution is messy. You'll get too many fractions. And notice that in our first equation, x plus y equals 20, both of those variables they both have a 1 in front of them. They both have a coefficient of 1. So we could choose to solve that equation for y in terms of x, or we could solve it for x in terms of y, and we won't have any fractions. So I'm going to solve that first equation for y in terms of x. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides. I get y equals 20 minus x. And now I take that expression for y and I substitute it in to the second equation. I replace the y variable with 20 minus x. So let me rewrite that equation. So I get 7.80x plus 8.10 times 20 minus x equals 7.92 times 20. All right, so now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of those decimals. So if I had fractions, what would I do? I would get rid of my fractions by multiplying both sides by the least common denominator. But if I have decimals, it's the same thing. So we have two decimal places we need to get rid of. And so to get rid of those, I multiply by 100, a 1 with 2 zeros. And that will get rid of all the decimals. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 100 just so I don't have any decimals that I have to deal with. So then on the left side, I need to distribute that 100. So I get 780x plus 810 times 20 minus x is equal to 792 times 20. And now let's distribute the 810 on the left side. So I get 780x plus 16,200 minus 810x. And on the right, I multiplied 792 times 20. All right, so now if I combine the like terms on the left, 780x minus 810x, that will give me negative 30x, right? But I also want to subtract that 16,200 from both sides. So on the left side, I'll get negative 30x. On the right, I get negative 360. And now I just need to divide both sides by negative 30, and I will get x is equal to positive 12. And so now I need to figure out what the other variable is. So I go back to that equation, y equals 20 minus x, and I get y equals 20 minus 12, or y equals 8. And then we have to answer the question. So remember, x was the amount of city roast, so that means she's going to use 12 pounds of city roast. And then y was the French, so she's going to use 8 pounds of French. And that is the answer. So 12 plus 8 is 20 pounds. And you could check by multiplying 12 pounds by $7.80 and also multiplying 8 pounds by $8.10 and adding those two dollar amounts together to see that they come out to be 20 pounds times $7.92. All right, so remember, the first step is to define your variables and be specific, and then you need to come up with two equations. And there will be other videos with other types of mixture problems.